Good morning. Good morning. Is that on? It's good to be here. It's really, really, really good to be here. Can I say thank you as well? Because some of you knew I was ill last year, and I want to say thank you for your prayers and all your support. My wife would like to say hello. She can't be here this morning. But talking about my illness, she was the only one who was a bit disappointed I recovered, really. She spent the insurance money twice over, and all the cruises. But then God healed me. So God does heal, folks. It's good. It's good. It is good. I want to kind of go through a number of references, scriptures, and bits and pieces, and I just want to exhort you and encourage you, challenge you, inspire you to simply get on with it. I don't know if you got the slide there, if you can put that on. What did I call it? Get on with it. You've got all the things there. Get on with it. And actually, I believe it's really applicable, even after this morning, with some of the things that were shared. For example, about God is here wanting to do something, and yet some of you were kind of, I won't go forward. Some of you had to be kind of cajoled 2 or 3 times to kind of come forward. Folks, it is a great opportunity when God is moving to get in. Folks, there's nothing worse than kind of going home knowing that everybody else has been blessed, everybody else has received something, and you just kind of go, oh, if only I did this, if only I did that, and you live the life of regret. I want to tell you, especially since last year, don't get me wrong, it could have been serious, it could have been. And I kind of went to the doctors because I had a sore throat. My glands were up, and so I thought, it's a really busy period. I thought I'd be preemptive, get some antibiotics and get something like that, and to try and keep it at bay so I could keep doing what I needed to do. And have you ever seen embarrassing bodies or anything like that? And it's a bit weird that, I think even I can diagnose what that is. So I don't know who these people are going to. And I thought this doctor wasn't very good, because I went with a sore throat problem. My glands were up, but yet she took my blood and she sent me for an X-ray. And I thought, that's not my throat. But I did as I was told. Now, I never go to the doctors. My wife has always told me, go to the doctors, whenever there's a problem, go to the doctors, go to the doctors. And I never go. On this occasion, I thought, I'll just go, just why not? It turned out there was a tumour right here, probably the size of a chicken breast. And so they didn't know that at first. It went for the X-ray, then they sent me for a CT scan, then a PET scan, all confirmed there was a shadow. So when I went in, within, I think, 4.5 weeks to 5.5 weeks of seeing the GP, I was on the operating theatre with the doctor, cutting me open, taking out what I thought was going to be the size of a chicken breast. It turned out to be something so much bigger. Right across my chest, right across my abdomen. And they said the only scary part about the whole thing is they don't know how long that growth had been going on for, but it was very close to my diaphragm nerve. And if you had touched that, I'll be on a ventilator. Wow, isn't that amazing? You see, all because I took the chance that maybe it was just me listening to God on this one occasion to do something. Now, it's one of the things that kind of hit me during that particular time, because we were going through, I never realised the pressure was upon my family, because it was kind of really weird. It was like a family outing every time we went to the doctors. They wanted to be there, because I'm one of those that, how did it go? I'll say, it's fine. A typical bloke. And so my wife wanted to come. My sister was up, so she came. And my daughter, well, she wants to be a doctor. May God help us if she was. Her bedside manner is, and she even asked, can I go into the operating theatre with you? Even the doctor looked at her really weird. But anyway, they wanted to see, but it was a pressure upon them. Was it cancer? Was it this? Or was it whatever? And I realized it really shocked me, because when I went for the test results, they said, for example, we can't give it to you because it's holiday time, and there's quite a few people who are not here, we can't give it to you. To which I kind of had to hold my wife and my kid, my daughter back, because I thought they were going to just jump on him and beat the hell out of him, because they say, no, we cannot wait another week or 2 or whatever it is. We need to know what it is. Is he dying? Or is he living? You see, folks, what I'm trying to say is that during that time, I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I kind of had the thinking, I was starting to think, Dave, if this really is the end, are you happy with how things have been? If it really is the end, am I happy, or am I going to have all those regrets that I have been at the bedside of people who have died or dying, and that, you know what, not one person has ever said, if only I could have worked an extra hour. Not one person has ever said, oh, I wish I earned another pound. It's just a whole long list, in some cases, of regret, regret, regret. And folks, I want to tell you, you are going to live a life of regret unless you start doing something now. Because you don't, even today I was reading, you know, we don't know what tomorrow will bring. We can't say, tomorrow I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, because we don't know what tomorrow will bring. That's why it's important that we say, if God wills. Because we have no power, but we do have power about what we do now. And that's why I'm telling you to get on with it. Please get on with it. You know, with my trustees, they made sure that I had to go through phase returns and everything else. And I was thinking, I know it's good and I know they love me, but I just want to get on with things. Because I've realized even now, time is short. Time is short. Do you know, procrastination simply means to postpone action. It's the failure to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. It's as some would say, it's the someday syndrome. One day, someday, I'll get around to doing it. Folks, I want to tell you, I want to put some urgency in you today. Get on with it. Just move on. We have to fully realize that every moment are key moments. We must live in the moment. Do you see there's 3 things, I put it on there, about procrastination. 1, the cause of procrastination, the cost of it, and the cure. So hopefully I'll get through these things, and hopefully it'll inspire you this morning. Let's look at the cause of it. Indecision. James 1 verse 8, it says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. The scripture doesn't say in some of his ways, it says in all of his ways. You need to understand, it's like a little bit of dough, as the scripture says. It affects the whole dough. The yeast affects the whole dough. Folks, indecision affects everything in your life. Folks, I want to tell you there was a real tough time in the relationship between me and my sister at one time. I had the car. She depended on me. We had to go. This was when I was living in London. And she had to get something for an interview or something. I can't remember what it was. And we spent, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. Please don't think I'm like one of those fishermen who say, my fish I caught, it was this big when it was this. I am telling you, I am not exaggerating. We were in there for nearly 2.5 hours as she decided between 3 skirts and 3 blouses. You might find it funny. It was one of the most torturous experiences of my life. I just wanted to get on with it. Come on. In the end, she got all 3. 2.5 hours of my time was wasted. Do you know, just recently, to keep my wife happy, we were going to have our bathroom done. We've had it all done. We haven't got the fancy bit of the squirty bit. We make our own bubbles in the bath. And I think her and I were in there in this showroom having a look at all the bits and pieces. And she was, no, I like that one. And I like that one. And then she says, Dave, you're going to have to decide. So this is, and I'm not exaggerating. She said, I'll leave it to you. Famous last words. And so I went with my sister. She was up for the weekend. She said, come on, let's go to the showroom. Let's go in there. Let's have a look. So, and I'm not exaggerating now. Please understand. Okay. I was in there for 3/4 of an hour. I decided the floor, the bathroom suite, the cupboards, everything. It was superb. It all matched. It was brilliant. And then I took it home and said, this is it, darling. She said, I don't like that. Yes. You look like that. It's a shock. We've now got it done. We've eventually got it done. But in the end, she chose. She got her way. Indecision, procrastination, they're always double-minded. Nothing more frustrating than all of those things. Do you know what? I've come to the realization it's best to be wrong, make a decision and do something, not do anything at all. At least if you're moving, you can change direction if you need to. But do something. Make a decision is all I'm asking you to do. Get on with it. You know, indecision will prevent you from doing what you ought to do. For example, when are you going to see the doctor? It's fresh in my mind at the moment because it's something I've gone through. Guys, and it's not me being some sort of health check. I'm not being, sponsored or anything like that. But I'm just serious. Guys, do you check yourselves? Do you do the right things? I've been having this situation. Us guys are real wussies sometimes. Sometimes we don't go because out of fear. Go. Do something. Ladies, same thing to you. Yeah. Can I say something else? When are you going to confront your marriage? Now it's gone quiet. Do you know what? I've talked to counsellors. Did you know something? They say, for example, for marriages to heal, doesn't take a great deal. It's the little things. It's always the little things that makes the huge difference. Guys, you know what? The best way of romancing your wife is that when she says at 8 o'clock in the morning, darling, can you put the bins out? And you say, I'm sorry, love, I'm busy. I can't do it. I've got to rush out. Then you come in, and then you come in, and she says, oh, darling, could you just go and get the shops and get something, just an item? And you say, no, darling, I wish I could, but I'm too busy. Then you come in, and then you come in from work, and then all of a sudden she says, oh, can you just tend for the kids for a minute? I've just got to do this. Darling, I wish I could. But then come 9 o'clock, you kind of fancy something, don't you guys? Don't be surprised if she says no. Because the time to romance her was when she needed the bins emptying. That's when she needed it. Now's the time to act. Buy your wife flowers. And don't get it because it's, some guy selling cheap roses for £1. That doesn't mean anything, folks. I want to tell you, I'm not sure if I shared this with you before, but I actually live not too far away from the cemetery. So getting the flowers is great. And I want you to know, my wife knows it takes effort because there's 3 fences to get over. And then 3 fences to get back with all those wonderful flowers without breaking it. She knows I put the effort in. Flowers, do something. Folks, it's always the small things that make the difference. We make it sound as if it's so hard. Act now. Do something now. The other thing that stops us, of course, of procrastination is perfection. Ecclesiastes 11, verse 4. If you wait until the wind and the weather are just right, you will never plant anything and never harvest anything. The Message Bible puts it this way. Don't sit there watching the wind. Do your own work. Don't stare at the clouds. Get on with your life. If you expect perfection before you move on, folks, you're going to miss it. There's no such thing as perfect conditions. There is no such thing as perfect conditions. Now is the time to act. I'm going to miss that out. Fear is another thing. The fear of man brings a snare, but whoever leans on, trusts in, and puts his confidence in the Lord is safe and is set on high. Oftentimes our fears will keep us from even trying. Folks, I want to tell you, when we allow fear of others or what they think of us, folks, I want you to realize, just take my word for it. They don't like you, so get on with it. If that helps, just get on with it. Folks, you cannot live your life in fear out of what people may think of who you are. And they can't, and actually, listen, you've heard me say before about failures. I think it was, is it Jim Bakker? Tom Bakker, who was the famous evangelist who went into prison, the American? Who? Jim Bakker. He talks about and testifies how he was at his weakest moment. He lost everything, his ministry, the church. He then lost his wife and family. And there he was in prison. He was depressed. He had flu. He wasn't well. And he just thought, what on earth's going on? And then all of a sudden, a prison guard said to him, listen, you've got a visitor, which really blew him out of the water. Someone's come to see me. Someone's come to see me. He thought maybe it's someone just to come and just rub it in, have a go at me, tell me off. So he kind of braced himself, got himself ready. He went to the waiting room to where the person was. And then he talks about how he saw this person. As soon as he entered the room, he saw the person, he saw the back of them. They got up and he turned around with arms wide open wide. And it only turned out to be Billy Graham. And he embraced him and he said it was like Jesus himself was in the room. Folks, we have failures and we've all made mistakes. And you know what? The problem is sometimes people know about those mistakes and they like to remind us. But I want to tell you, let's think of the great apostle Paul. Paul was a murderer. He persecuted the church. He had it in for the church. And the church had difficulty accepting him. Do you remember? Only one person, Barnabas, accepted him. And folks, you can imagine for a long time, people were looking at him with suspicious minds, thinking, maybe he's just infiltrating our ranks to see who we are and so forth, to get the ins and outs so he can persecute us and get us. So it took a while because all people could remember was the Apostle Paul. He wasn't the Apostle Paul then, but this guy who murdered the church. But folks, he worked through that. Now, folks, when you and I think of the Apostle Paul, we don't think of him as a murderer. We think of him as the guy who wrote 2/3 of the epistles. What I'm telling you to do is, listen, you may have made some real howls. You may have made some real big mistakes, but keep going. Don't worry, because people will remember you for your good and not your negative. And if they want to focus on your negative, that says more about them than who you are. It says more about who they are than who Christ is. And church, let me just say this. Please, 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 for goodness sake, get rid of the judgmental attitudes. Please get rid of it. Because we kind of suss people up when they come through. Isn't it interesting? You know, I don't even like people, but even I nearly got converted by what Luke said. People matter. People know when you're kind of sizing them up. Love them. And do you know what? You're going to get people, listen, this might be controversial. You're going to get people who will come in with all walks, from different walks of life, that you and I, we can tell and we can prove by Scripture is wrong. But love them. Do you know what? I'm of the belief, folks, that people change when they can, once they belong. Let them belong. But they don't believe in what we believe. Do you know what? I don't think God believes in half the things you do. Love. Even the woman who was caught in adultery. What did he say? Did he say, you? No. Not once, folks, did he condemn her. Not once. Was it because what she did was right? Oh, absolutely not. If Jesus can forgive and love, what's your reason? What's your excuse? Laziness is another one. Proverbs 13, verse 4. The appetite of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, but the appetite of the diligent is abundantly supplied. Folks, laziness. And Bible, I want to tell you, the Bible hits on this. Do you know what? We always like things to be quick and easy. When you go into the McDonald's, we get really frustrated because we don't get it whenever. Folks, is it really worth waiting for? I wouldn't mind if you went to a 3-star Michelin star restaurant, but McDonald's, we get hit up about it. It's just a burger that's just greasy in a bun and we get wound up. Folks, have you ever seen the books that you self-help books? It talks about easy ways to doing this and that. Not one book says 5, 10, oh, no, that's a contradiction. 10 gut-wrenching ways to save your marriage. I bet you any money that title won't sell. We don't like things like that. Discipline, hard work. We're going to move on. The cost of procrastination. Let's look at 3 things here. Wasted opportunities. Ephesians 5, verse 16. Make the most of every chance you get. These are desperate times. How many opportunities have we spurned in respect to inviting people to hear the gospel? Folks, but they might be offended. Folks, I'll never forget this. There was one time... I might have told you. I think they were called the Pratt family. And I'm not being funny. I think actually, I shouldn't say that because you might Google them. But they were Americans, and they had this ministry of song and preaching the gospel and seeing people saved. And honestly, it was one of the funniest nights of my life. But I was also embarrassed because I brought someone with me. to hear this guy because I was told that this family was really good. Now, have you ever seen Les Dawson on a comedy show when he played the keyboard or the piano? I want to tell you, when Les Dawson played the keyboard or the piano with the wrong notes, that was like a concerto compared to what these guys played. It was awful. It was one of those you had to bite, and you could see people that he preached the gospel, and honestly, I couldn't make head nor wind, tail of it. Honestly, I thought it was weird. And I was thinking, oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I brought this friend too long. Oh no, this person is going to ask me so many questions. You know, what was this and why did they do that and everything else? It was just, oh. And then all of a sudden, the guy made an appeal, and this person came forward. My friend came, and folks, I haven't got a clue what they came forward for, but they got saved. Yeah. Folks, what I'm trying to say is this: is to just make the opportunity, the most of all the opportunities. Invite people. Folks, you could be their greatest evangelist because you brought them to hear the gospel, and that gospel transformed their lives. Cost of procrastination, wasted opportunities. Even here. Let me just read this. It says, some years ago, at a resort area along the East Coast, a small community was having an open town meeting about some financial problems that they were facing. Among the 24 or so people, one man no one seemed to knew who was apparently visiting in the area and had just dropped in for the meeting. He started to make a comment once as various projects were considered, but he was interrupted. So for the rest of the time, he kept still and he left early. Just as he went out, somebody arriving late came in and said breathlessly, "What was he doing here? Is he going to help us?" The rest of them said, "Who are you talking about? Who was that man?" The person who just arrived said, "You mean you don't know that was John D. Rockefeller? His yacht is in our harbour. Didn't you get his help?" In despair, someone said, "No, we didn't even get his help. We didn't know who he was." Rockefeller at that time was the richest person in the whole wide world. Who's the richest one of the guys who with Windows? At that time, dwarfs his fortune. All because, folks, they didn't use the opportunity that was there. Someone was amongst them. The cost of procrastination means wasted opportunities. Do you know something? There's wasted opportunities when you don't commit yourself to hear. Yeah. Can I ask, if you're not a member, why aren't you a member? I can say this because I'm not a trustee and I'm going. He's got to sort out all the problems because people matter. So, why aren't you a member? Because I'm not so sure about this or that. I'm not quite sure if I'm like... Folks, if you're waiting for the perfect church, please stop looking, because if you do find it, they won't accept you. Yeah. So what's your excuse? You see, folks, I want you to realise something about, it's not just becoming a member of the church, it's realising that this is my home, this is my place, and like a family, a family literally, children and the family, they learn from one another, they develop within the family. And that's why the family unit is so important. And folks, listen to me, you cannot flourish and prosper without being a part of the family. God is interested in families. That's why he's called the church. Many parts, different parts that have different roles, but together, man alive, does it do something powerful and effective. And folks, if you want to be out there, fine. On your own, be so super spiritual. I don't need the church, and I don't need those people. I don't need accountability. Folks, you're a danger. You are an absolute danger. In fact, one of the reasons why my wife is not here is because she's worried by what I won't do. No. It's the honest truth. There's 2 times she was in desperation praying to God. I think it was after a few months when we were married. She says, "Oh God," she was crying in the bathroom. And I think she says, "God, I just need my sleep because he snores so loudly." And the second time was, and it's the honest truth, she said, again, it was the bathroom. I don't know why she goes there. And she was in the bathroom and she said, "Oh God, when will he ever grow up?" And she said, and I'm not exaggerating, she will tell you she got one of the quickest replies from God ever. And it was then, and God told her, he isn't. And I thought, yeah, so I am called of God not to grow up. So that's really good. Folks, stop wasting. Do you know, can I just say this? I'm going to do something in a minute because I've got to finish. I'm not into jigsaw puzzles. I actually think it's a waste of time. I'm sorry, I just can't be. But I do them. So sometimes at a luncheon club that I'm responsible for, I do it because some of the older people there like doing it, and so I've got to do what they like because people matter. But there's nothing worse than when you do all of these things. Okay, you spend all this time doing the jigsaw puzzle, and there's one piece missing. Isn't it annoying? The picture is so good and it's so lovely, but even though it's beautiful, you are drawn to where that missing piece is. Folks, you're the missing piece here. Why do you want to faff around when you can flourish? In fact, the Bible talks about how those who are planted in the house of God flourish. Folks, it's so simple. Commit yourself here. And if this is not the right place, then find somewhere. Because I want to tell you, there's nothing worse than following people or being with people who haven't got a clue which direction they're going. And you know I'm telling the truth because you've followed people in the car, haven't you, who haven't got a clue which direction they're going. And you've had those little thoughts, haven't you? I want to ram you off the road. You've had those thoughts, haven't you? But because Luke says, people matter, you can't. The wasted opportunities to make a positive difference in someone's life. I've got to move on. Procrastination causes problems too. Folks, don't think that, babe, kicking it into the long grass means that the problem's gone. It isn't. It just makes the situation worse. The cure. Well, before we look at the cure, let me ask you the following question. What's the one area you are most guilty of procrastination? Maybe it's delaying the decision to become a Christian. Folks, if you don't know Jesus, I want to tell you, you are. Folks, can I just encourage you, if you don't know Jesus, to get to know him. Please don't think you have to grow a beard, ladies. Wear Jesus creepers and then start talking King James language. Folks, honestly, to become a Christian, to be a follower of Christ, is life itself. You need to understand that. Please don't delay. And do you know what? I've come across so many people who've made that decision. And do you know what? They keep saying, if only I did it earlier. If only I did it earlier. Folks, stop wasting time and just make a decision and go for it. Follow him. Might be because, you've been delaying to become a member. Maybe it's because you don't want to give of your time, give of your tithes. Maybe you kind of don't want to put your marriage right. Folks, I want to tell you this. It's important that you realize you need to move on. The cure, make a resolution to stop making excuses. Now's the time you're going to stop making excuses. You're going to do it. The Bible says this, don't be so lazy that you say, I'll go to work, a lion may eat me. That's what the Bible says. It's an excuse. People who are good at making excuses are seldom good for anything else. Stop making excuses. Believe that God will help you, because he is. I'm going to do something, if I can. I've got, do you know that thing I don't like doing? I've got a jigsaw puzzle here. Can you take one and pass it along? I've got one. I put it in my pocket. Years ago in the Old Testament, do you know what they used to do? When God moved and did something, they built something of a monument to remind themselves of what God had done, and also to remind other future generations of what God had done. And so what I'm asking you to do is just take a piece. And I want you to ask yourself a little question as you keep this. You may keep it for a week, you may keep it for a month, you may keep it for a year, I don't know. I've had this now in my pocket I've had different trousers on, don't worry, but I've had it in my pocket for about 4 or 5 weeks. To remind myself of the responsibility that I have to play my part. Because I don't want to be the missing piece that everyone is drawn to, instead of focusing on the good picture that God has intended me to be a part of. And folks, when I'm not there, I have a knock-on effect upon the person next to me and so forth. Folks, I want to play my part. And you are going to be known for something. What will it be? Someone who is a consumer, or someone who gave and blessed and helped? That's your decision. My simple exhortation this morning is, get on with it.